Yes, you read that title right. Do not save your money. And I'm going to explain today why I say that. And it's going to actually blow your mind. Okay, so this is my chart that I've got, and of course, this is the ages that we are at certain times of our life. This is going to be either interest, investing income, or, of course, inflation. This is just going to be moving the previous year down, and of course, our income and savings, and I'm going to really explain that later. But first off, let's move our box to the 20-year age. So at the age of 20, as an example, if we were to put $10,000 into a savings account, and I'm going to explain why I'm making this video as well. So really quickly, I've got family members on one side of the family who say that you should never invest your money, you should always save your money into a savings account, or at least something that can get you interest. Now, really quickly, interest is right now worthless. We're not getting anything. If you are lucky, you're maybe getting 1/4 or 0.5% if you are literally lucky. However, other than that, you're not making interest money. And meanwhile, inflation is on average around 2% a year. That means that every single year, everything generally goes up in price by about 2%. Now, of course, we have seen inflation numbers go through the roof, and we now just don't know how much it's going to be in the future. Will it come back down to the average of 2%? Or with all of this government spending, will it continue on at that 5 to 6% range for a few years? Meanwhile, interest rates just not paying anything at all. So, meanwhile, what I'm talking about, if you're new to this whole investing world, is money, when it sits on the side, doesn't make any money. If it sits in interest, it may be making a couple of pennies a year. Meanwhile, everything else is costing more money, which means that your cash is worth less than it did the year before. Let me explain this. So at the age of 20 years old, let's say we have $10,000 sitting in cash, not making any interest. That $10,000 is going to be almost worthless in the future. So let's say we keep that $10,000 in cash until we're at the age of 60. Well, inflation means or shows us that if we had, or if the average every single year goes up by 2%, that means that that $10,000 is still $10,000 in 40 years. However, that $10,000 can't buy $10,000 worth of stuff. It can only buy $10,000 worth of stuff. It can't buy what it should be able to, because now everything is going to cost $22,000, while back then that same stuff only cost $10,000. I hope this is making sense. So this is why you never save money. As an example, if we were to get an average, since I've been working of until recently, the average interest rate that we've been getting is 1%. That means that if we continue only making around 1% average until we're 60, that means that we will have $15,000. Meanwhile, the same amount of money back when we were 20 could only buy $15,000 worth of stuff. Meanwhile, remember that number that was up there before? It was $22,000. So all of that stuff now costs $22,000. We can't buy it all. We have a lot less buying power. I hope this is still making sense. So, what I'm trying to say is, if we are saving our money, we're actually losing money every single year. We're losing about 1 to 1.5% of our worth every single year. Now, that money isn't disappearing. It's not in the bank account and now it's going to be worth $900 next year. No, it's still $10,000. However, everything else is more expensive, which means that that $10,000 can't buy as much, which means that you're actually not as rich as you might have thought you were. So now, what can we do to make it so that we can actually stay ahead of inflation? Let's see. Well, let's say we make an average of 8% per year. And that is essentially what the stock market does, is on average it increases by about 8% per year. This means that by the time we are 60, that $10,000 in theory is worth $234,000. Meanwhile, that $10,000 inflation-wise was only worth around $22,000. So we actually made $212,600 profit over top of the inflation, which means that we are pretty well all set. Not to mention that if we could then take out that money and invest it in something that pays you about 5% per year, you would then be able to, let's say, retire at the age of 60 with an income on average of about $11,700 per year. Now that may not sound like a lot of money. However, let's say every 10 years we invest $10,000, or I'll make it even easier for you. Every single year we invest $1,000. Can you put about $800 a year, or sorry, $800 a month? What am I saying? About $80 a month, I mean, into an investing account. Can you invest $80 a month? That is my question to you, because this starts getting pretty crazy. Watch this. By only investing $1,000 a month, look at the money and how it's growing. And then when we get down to the age of 60 years old, we now have at 5% an income of $25,000. Now, we've learned up here that $25,000 in today's thought process is actually probably worth about $50,000. So in today's money, that $25,000, let's say the average income is $50,000. In today's money, that $25,000 may seem like a lot, but it's actually about half of what you need to live on average, and the average person makes about $50,000. And that means that, for example, that $25,000 is about maybe a quarter of what you would need in the future. So this is why you need to invest your money. Now let's say if we were to do $2,000, which is about $160 a month, maybe a little bit less, maybe $120 or so a month, something like that anyways. It's not crazy. We start seeing that, hey, we need $100,000 a year to retire if we wanted to have a so-called average income, because that's probably what it's going to be when we turn 60 years old. You're going to need to have an average income of $100,000. That's 40% of the way there. So 40% of today's money would be like if you are making $20,000 today. So roughly anyways. So this is what I'm talking about. Don't save your money. It doesn't make you any money. Invest your money. Invest. You see a $600 watch? Do you need it? Do you need to know the time on a $600 watch? No, that $600 can make you a lot more into the future. Now, of course, we only live once. You have to buy nice things, but let your investments and the income generated off those investments pay for those things and not your actual earned money. Anyways, I hope that this video has helped you. If it has, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time.